Yo, what's good? Next Gen Amolytics. Happy Saturday, everybody. June 14th. I'll give a quick little recap of yesterday, then we'll move forward. We went 4 for 5, so another winning day. On to day 6. Pascatino sold against Severino. You know, he was riding a 12-game hitting streak, so that kind of sucks. It's just variance. He broke one down the line. That should have been a double in the bottom of the 7th or 6th there. So he just missed it there. But, nonetheless, Acuna went 3 for 4 with a double against Marquez. Frelick went 2 for 4 with a single against Fetty. Marte went 1 for 3 with a single against Kolick. And then Carroll went 1 for 4 with a homer against Kolick. So Arizona chased Kolick out of there. You know, as I expected, he only went 4 1/3. Fetty pitched decent against Milwaukee, went 5 1/3 there. Severino, shoved against Kansas City, and I didn't see that coming. Kansas City offense is pretty bad, honestly, as I was watching that game yesterday. And then Atlanta got to Marquez, but not really. They really got to the bullpen. They were losing there for a second. They were down like 4-1, and turned it on against Colorado's bullpen. But moving forward, starting out today, I like Trea Turner, Philly. They're going against Bowden. Francis, they just saw him 2 weeks ago and shelled him. Got to him. They had 9 base runners, 6 earned, and 1 2/3, and he was out of the game. The last, few games, he's only reached 5 innings pitched once, and that was against Texas. In Texas, the Rangers, their offense isn't good by any means. Went 3 1/3 last week against Minnesota. Gave up 10 base runners, 4 earned. Against Philly, I just told you about that. Texas, he went 4 base runners, 0 earned there. The Padres, he went 6 base runners, 2 earned there. And then Detroit got to him for 10 base runners, 4 earned. I expect Philly to get to him again here. Turner's been hitting well. Over the course of the past 2 weeks against right-handed pitching, he's batting a .447 weighted OBA, striking out at 11% rate. They've moved him back into the leadoff spot there. So I expect them as a team to get to Francis, but also expect it to be a better game yesterday than it was with, I think Suarez was on the mound for Philly, and he shoved against Toronto. So that's what you got to take in consideration when you take these home batters, is if you suspect the home pitcher is going to shove against that team. And when I say shove, I mean just pitch well, shut them out. You got to take in consideration that they might not get that last at bat in the bottom of the ninth. So, I don't think Sanchez shoves here. I think Toronto makes it, a better game on today. So that's that. Moving forward, next up, I like Wilson of the Athletics going against Lorenzen. Now that I think about it, I didn't even give you the whip of Francis. 1 second. So against righties, Francis has a 145 whip. So I love that spot for Turner there. And Turner's on a 5-game hitting streak as well. Moving forward, I like Jacob Wilson of the Athletics going against Lorenzen of Kansas City. Lorenzen's giving up a 166 whip to righties, a 349 average as well. He just hasn't been good, by any means. Had a good game against the White Sox last week, but I don't put any weight on that. St. Louis chased him out of there in 2 2/3. Cincinnati got to him for 14 base runners and 6 earned 3 weeks ago. San Fran got to him for 8 base runners, 2 earned. And then he had a decent game against Houston, which is surprising. He still gave up 8 base runners, 4 earned there, but went 7 1/3. So I don't know what happened there. But again, I like Wilson here. As I mentioned before, he's just a batter that puts the ball in play, and gives us a chance. It doesn't strike out much, doesn't walk much, just hits. And he's batting a .510 weighted OBA versus right-handed pitching, striking out at a 5% rate over the course of the past 2 weeks. I like this play for him. I mean, I like the Athletics as a whole, but I don't like their pitcher. They got a young pitcher up there, a lefty, Jacob Lopez. I suspect Kansas City gets to him. I just don't have a spot that I necessarily like in their lineup, wise, or I'd attack him too. He hasn't been good, so this should be a high-scoring game. To be honest, you have the righties in Kansas City's lineup, like Garcia, Witt, India, Perez. They should be able to get to him, and as I said, I suspect this to be a high-scoring game on both sides. Moving forward, I like Soto. Yeah, Soto of New York Mets. Going against Rasmussen here of Tampa Bay. At home, they just lost yesterday. Rasmussen has been pitching good for this year. I'll give him that. But as I look at his game log, he's not really going against anybody. His last five games was Miami, the Rangers, Minnesota, Toronto, and Miami. I don't give any weight to any of those, to be honest. I will give him, a little bit because he's at 4 or 5 of these games were at home, and Tampa Bay's in a AAA ballpark right now. So I give him that, but other than that, I don't give those games any weight. The one away game that he had was against Miami. He went 6 innings there, gave up 4 base runners, 0 earned. As I expanded, he's only had 2 away games this year. His other away game was against Arizona, which he gave up 6 base runners, 4 earned there. He does struggle with lefties more than he does righties. He's given up a 0.87 whip to lefties over the course of the past month. And on the year-wise, so I was looking at that as well, he's given up a higher batting average to lefties. So, Soto coming from the left side here, he's been batting well. As I said, I believe he's back, to be honest. He's batting a .539 weighted OBA versus right-handed pitching over the course of the past 2 weeks, striking out at a 14% rate. I like this spot for him. I like, for the Mets to get back, salvage a win here and tie up the series against Tampa Bay. And the thing is, as I said earlier, you got to take in consideration if you have the home pitcher shoving, then they might not get that last at bat. But I don't think Tyler McGill, shoves here against Tampa Bay. They've been really good against righties. So, I like for the Mets to get that last at bat if they are indeed down. And Soto's also riding a 5-game hitting streak here. Moving forward, next up, I like Acuna. We're doubling back here against Colorado. Same reasons as yesterday. Colorado, it just isn't good. Pitching staff isn't good. Dolander, younger guy, here struggles with righties. Let me pull him up. And as I said before, their bullpen is horrible. So, you have that as well. Acuna over the course of the past 2 weeks is batting a .528 weighted OBA, striking out at a 20% rate. You got Dolander giving up a .267 whip to righties. So I like and his K to walk rate is a negative 11.1%. So he's walking them quite a bit, struggling with control there. His last 5 games, he went 6 innings pitched against the Rangers. Again, as I just said, their offense is horrible. They're starting to heat up, though. I will give the Rangers that. But he went 3 innings pitched against the Mets last week. Gave up 9 base runners, 5 earned. And then Miami got to him. Not kind of. I mean, he gave up 5 base runners, 2 earned. He only went 3 innings pitched there, so they must have run up his pitch count. At Arizona, he gave up 5 base runners, 1 earned. Only made it 4 2/3 there. And the Detroit got to him for 8 base runners, 6 earned. I do give him, like the Colorado pitchers, a bit of room there because, Colorado, them pitching at home, that's a hitter's ballpark. So you can't really like put too much weight on their home games. But his away games, he's not making it to 6. And, as I said, the bullpen's horrible. So you also have that going. And as I said yesterday, Atlanta has to make something happen right here, if they want to, make a run this season at all. But moving forward, last one, I like Smith of the Rangers. I've been talking crazy on the Rangers, but I like him. He's in the leadoff spot here for them, going against the White Sox, who are even worse than the Rangers offense. I do take in consideration here that I believe that DeGrom shoves against the White Sox here, at home. However, I will say that I expect Texas to get to this kid early. I don't quite know who this Vassell dude is. He only has one start, and he was at home against Kansas City, in which he went 3 1/3, gave up 6 base runners, 2 earned there, and a homer. And for context on that, Kansas City is a horrible offense, and I watched that live yesterday. And he was at home for that one. So first away start here, against a Texas team that's, heating up. Simeon's been heating up, Berger, Smith, Carter. They all have been hitting well over the course of the past 2 weeks. So, I expect that to keep going. They get to Vassell here, Smith over the course of the past 2 weeks, is batting a .486 weighted OBA versus right-handed pitching, striking out at a 15% rate. And then you got Vassell. He's given up a whip of 3 to lefties. So he struggled with lefties last week against Kansas City, even though they don't have too many. They might have 3 or 4 in that lineup. So small sample size here. But then again, I still like, Smith to get one against Vassell here. In order there, I like Turner, Wilson, Acuna, Smith, and then Soto. Those are my top 5. And then for context on how I play this, you might be wondering, like, how is it a winning day, if Pascantino sold yesterday. So me, I take the top 3 that I like, and put them in a parlay together. And that's how I go about that. And then that 5, and I'll put the 5 in a parlay as well, but I'll put less bread towards that and then more towards my 3-leg, And then also, like, if you want to play it safe on both sides, you can round robin it. I believe in FanDuel. I don't know what DraftKings does. I believe they gotta have round robin. But but if you want to play it in like Prize Picks, that's a flex play. You have 4 out of 5 hitting or something like that, or 3 out of 5, whatever it is. You can just round robin it, and just any combination of these players getting a hit will cash you out. So that's how I play it. And then for the homer I'm going to give you, that's like a one-off. Like I'm not parlaying that, with anything. You can if you want to, but that's just like, I might put some bread on that straight, take that by itself, I know like a lot of people like the home run parlays and things like that, but, I can start providing those if people want those, but I don't put too much into that, that's just me. But today I do have one home run that I like, and it's Judge. He's going against Dobbins. They just saw Dobbins last week in New York. Judge got to him there. First pitch, 4-seamer for a homer. I don't suspect Dobbins is going to throw that 4-seamer at all. So I think that Judge can sit on the slider that he's throwing, because I don't think he's going to challenge him with that 4-seamer again. So if you're not going to challenge him with that 4-seamer, you're going to have to throw that slider or that sweeper. And I suspect Judge to be sitting on that and waiting for it. Dobbins, let me see, over the course of So he gave up 2 against New York, and then he gave up 1 against Detroit. So he's been decent with home runs. But as I said, I like Judge here. Again, he's not going to throw that four-seamer, and that's the pitch that he throws the most. So, that's the pitch that he's most comfortable with. And Judge took that, first pitch, yard in the first inning there, less than, however, that was last week on the 8th. So, and they chased him out of there in five innings there. So, as I said, I expect him to throw that slider, throw that sweeper, and Judge to send it. Judge is hitting a home run like every 5 at-bats on Saturdays. I think it's a sequence to it. We'll talk about that another day. I think it's a sequence to how they hit home runs there. But yeah, Judge is a spot here that I like for a home run, as I want to say Boston won last night too. Yeah, so Yankees got Rodon on a mound against Dobbins. I like this spot. But in any regards, if you want to be notified when I post, please subscribe and turn on your notifications. Like, comment, share. Any ideas that you have, anything that you want to hear, any player props that I don't do that you want to hear, just let me know. I'm open to any ideas. Have a good one.